Who would have thought that a race as iconic as Monaco could feel so disappointing? Yet here we are. What happened this year wasn't just uneventful. It was hard to sit through. For many fans, it felt like a missed chance to bring some fresh energy to a Grand Prix that's already known for its lack of on-track action. Monaco is supposed to be special, historic, but in 2025 it looked more like a slow procession than a competitive race. And the team that got the most heat for this? Williams Mercedes. Now the bigger question being asked isn't just about lap times or qualifying positions, it's about the value of Monaco itself. Is it still worthy of holding a spot on the Formula One calendar? Or has its charm worn thin with the modern era of racing? Before this weekend, people expected something different. A race filled with calculated moves, clever decisions from the pit wall, and a chance to see teams think their way through the chaos. Instead, what we got felt like teams trying to find a way to simply survive. And even that came with a price. Williams surprisingly managed to score points, but the way they did it left many scratching their heads. Their strategy wasn't flashy. It wasn't fast either, but it worked. Both drivers finished in the points by using a method that took advantage of the track layout and the new rule requiring 2 pit stops. Their real challenge wasn't the cars behind them. It was how to stay ahead during pit cycles. They weren't alone in using these slow, frustrating tactics. And as the race went on, something became very clear. Monaco's tight layout just doesn't allow the kind of racing fans crave. If you can't pass on the track, you have to find other ways to move forward. And not all of them feel fair. So what exactly did Williams do that stirred up so much talk? The answer lies in how they handled the new rule. The mandatory 2-stop strategy. This change was meant to increase excitement, to shake up the order and force teams into making bold decisions. But instead of encouraging action on track, it pushed teams into using their pit crews as the main weapon. Since overtaking on the streets of Monaco is nearly impossible, teams turned to smart, or some would say sneaky, tactics in the pit lane. Williams saw a chance, and they took it. Their 2 drivers worked together to hold up faster cars behind them, especially the Mercedes pair. While one of the Williams drivers stayed in front to slow things down, the other used that gap to pit and rejoin without losing position. Then, they swapped roles. It was all about timing and teamwork, not speed. And in a race where fans expect thrilling battles, this method felt like a letdown. It was within the rules, sure, but that doesn't mean it felt right. Fans weren't the only ones disappointed. One of the Williams drivers, Albon, even spoke up after the race, admitting it wasn't the most enjoyable way to score points. "We didn't give the fans a proper race," he said, adding that even some drivers stuck behind them were clearly annoyed. But he also pointed out something important. They were just doing what they had to. In a track like Monaco, with cars as large and wide as they are now, there simply isn't space to race like before. This tactic wasn't flashy. It wasn't heroic. It was practical. And if your job is to score points, and this is the only way, you take it. What's even more telling is how other drivers reacted during the race. George Russell, stuck behind one of the Williams cars for what felt like forever, eventually lost patience. He tried to get around by cutting through the chicane, fully aware that it would earn him a penalty. That one move said everything about how helpless he felt. It wasn't about gaining position anymore. It was about breaking the deadlock, even if just for a few laps. Of course, the stewards didn't let it slide. Russell received a drive-through penalty which set him back and basically erased any chance he had of salvaging a decent result. But can you really blame him? From his cockpit, he was watching the race slip away. Not because someone was faster, but because someone was clever enough to slow things down and trap him behind. This brings up a bigger concern. If this kind of tactic becomes normal, what's left of the competition? It turns the race into a chess game where no one actually makes a move. And Monaco, already known for processional races, is the perfect playground for this kind of behavior. One good thing that came out of all this was the exchange between two team principals, Toto Wolff and James Vowles. Old colleagues turned rivals. They spoke during the race about what was happening. Toto later showed the message he received from Vowles, acknowledging that yes, the strategy worked, but at a cost. It didn't help the sport. It didn't inspire the next generation of fans. It just made everything feel stuck. And that's what hurts the most. Everyone wants to win, but not like this. Toto Wolff explained the situation later, saying something that stuck with a lot of fans. He mentioned that Vowles, now leading Williams, had no real choice. As Toto put it, "James is one of my people. He's doing his best, and I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to him. He had two cars in a good spot, and he had to protect those points. That says it all." The strange part? Williams weren't the first to pull this off during the weekend. It all started with the Racing Bulls. Their clever strategy in qualifying, getting both cars into Q3, gave them the platform they needed. During the race, they played it smart. Liam Lawson, running in 9th, was told to manage the pace and hold up everyone behind him. Why? So that his teammate Hajar, who was further up in 5th, could make his pit stop without losing position. It worked perfectly. Lawson kept the pack bunched up, giving Hajar the breathing space he needed. Once that job was done, they switched. Hajar slowed the field so Lawson could pit, and just like that, the Racing Bulls walked away with 12 vital points, jumping ahead of Aston Martin in the standings. The result was huge. For a team like them, that kind of gain could be worth tens of millions over a season. But as effective as it was, it raised a serious concern. If holding people up becomes the go-to method for earning points, then how much longer will fans stay interested? Even more ironic is that not all drivers were happy, even the ones who gained from it. There was frustration, even embarrassment. They knew it wasn't enjoyable to watch. One of the drivers who spoke openly about this was Carlos Sainz. He pointed out that the two-stop rule didn't really shake things up in terms of competition. Instead, it just created more moments of tension. 2, to be exact, rather than the usual one intense point during the race. He wasn't saying the rule was bad, but the way it's being used is far from ideal. The bigger problem, he noted, was the way teams manipulated the race itself. Strategies that slow down the action, block faster cars, and make the whole event feel like a series of calculated pauses rather than a real race. That's the downside of these tactics. They're legal, but they take away the excitement. For some teams, there's a feeling of being forced into this style of racing. If others are holding up the field, you either do the same or lose out. It becomes a chain reaction where nobody wants to be the first to try something different, because it might cost them points. Williams took the heat for what they did, but, truth be told, they were boxed in by what the Racing Bulls showed first. Seeing the results, they followed the lead, aiming to score points in 6th and 8th place, a solid midfield haul. The team's approach was clear. If you can't beat them on the track, you find another way. Albon summed it up honestly when he said, "We had no choice but to copy what the Racing Bulls did. It wasn't pretty or fun, but in the end, it's about the team and those valuable points." What worries many is that this kind of race manipulation might become a regular thing, especially at Monaco. If nothing changes, teams will keep using these tactics year after year, making the race even less exciting. Fans might lose interest completely, and that would be a huge blow for the sport. The fear is real. Drivers like Albon have openly said they don't enjoy this style of racing. They want clean, fair competition, not a race decided by who can block better or play the pit stop game more cleverly. The sport needs to find a way to stop this from happening again. George Russell's reaction during the race showed just how frustrated drivers are. He didn't care about the penalty he knew was coming. All he wanted was to race freely and fairly. That's a clear sign that something has to change. If the FIA wants to keep Monaco on the calendar, they need to act quickly. Otherwise, the event risks becoming a predictable procession, decided by pit stop strategies rather than driver skill or racing battles. So, what do you think? Should Monaco be saved, changed, or maybe even dropped from the calendar? And what should the FIA do to keep the races honest and exciting? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this analysis interesting, make sure to check out the video on your screen right now.